In the dusty plains of Texas, a lonely rancher's life changes forever when he discovers a frightened young woman hiding in his cattle wagon. Who is she, and what danger is she running from? As trust slowly builds between them, an unexpected journey begins that neither of them planned. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more emotional Wild West stories filled with mystery, courage, and unexpected bonds. The dusty plains of Texas stretched endlessly under the burning sun as rancher Luke Carter loaded his cattle wagon near the railway outpost. It had already been a long, exhausting day, and every muscle in his body ached from hours of handling restless cattle. His only goal was simple: reach the ranch before nightfall, secure the herd, and finally rest. But just as he was about to climb into the wagon and take the reins, something stopped him cold. A faint rustling sound came from behind the stacked hay bales, soft but unmistakably out of place in the heavy silence of the prairie. Luke narrowed his eyes, his hand instinctively moving toward the lantern hanging beside the wagon rail. The wind carried dust across the ground, but that sound, it didn't belong to the wind. Slowly, carefully, Luke climbed up into the wagon bed. Each step made the wooden boards creak under his weight. He leaned forward, lifting the lantern higher so its dim glow could cut through the shadows between the haystacks. The cattle nearby shifted uneasily, sensing something unusual. Luke's heartbeat slowed as he focused on the smallest movement in the darkness. Then he saw it again, a slight tremble, barely visible, as if someone was trying to stay hidden on purpose. His expression hardened, not in anger, but in cautious concern. Whoever was there wasn't supposed to be there, and they were clearly afraid. He stepped closer, pushing aside a loose bundle of hay. The moment the lantern light reached the space behind it, everything froze. A young woman, no older than 20, was curled tightly against the wooden frame of the wagon. Her clothes were torn and covered in dust, her face pale and drawn with exhaustion. Wide, frightened eyes stared back at Luke as if she expected punishment, capture, or worse. She tried to shrink further into the corner, pressing herself into the shadows as though she could disappear completely. Don't send me back," she whispered, her voice shaking so badly it almost broke. Luke stopped immediately. Something in her tone, raw fear mixed with desperation, cut through his suspicion. He didn't reach for her, didn't raise his voice, and didn't move any closer. Instead, he slowly lowered the lantern so the light wasn't blinding her. His instincts told him this wasn't a thief or stowaway looking for trouble. This was someone running from it. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly, keeping his tone steady. "You're safe. Right now." The girl hesitated, her breathing uneven, as if she was trying to decide whether those words were real or just another trick. Luke noticed the bruises on her arms and the dried dirt on her cheeks, signs that she had been on the run for some time. There was no sign of anyone else around the wagon, no footsteps chasing her, but fear like hers didn't appear without reason. Luke exhaled slowly, glancing toward the open plains beyond the railway outpost. If she was telling the truth, leaving her here meant sending her straight back into danger, and something about that thought didn't sit right with him at all. Without fully understanding why, he made a choice that would change the direction of both their lives in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Luke hesitated only a moment before lowering his voice. "You're safe now. No one's sending you anywhere." His tone was calm, steady, and unlike anything Emily had heard in days. For a moment, she didn't move, as if expecting the words to turn into another trap. Then slowly, trembling fingers reached out and accepted the coat he offered. She pulled it around her shoulders tightly, holding it like a shield against a world that had shown her nothing but fear. Luke didn't push her for answers. He simply stepped back, giving her space, letting her breathe without pressure or questions. Something about his silence felt different to her. Less like judgment, more like safety. As the wagon wheels began to turn again, the sound of wood creaking and cattle shifting filled the quiet Texas air. The open land stretched endlessly around them, golden and endless under the afternoon sun. Emily sat low inside the wagon, still guarded, still unsure, but no longer alone in the dark. Luke kept his focus on the road ahead, though his mind kept drifting back to the girl behind him. He could tell she wasn't just lost. She was running from something heavy, something that had left marks deeper than the bruises on her skin. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, but careful, like both were testing what this strange moment meant. After a long stretch of travel, Emily finally spoke her name in a voice barely louder than the wind. "I'm Emily." It was simple, but it felt like a small step out of hiding. Luke nodded once, acknowledging it without making it feel forced. Over the next miles, pieces of her story slowly began to surface, broken and hesitant. She came from a nearby mining town where life was harsh and dangerous, especially for someone alone and unprotected. She had escaped during the chaos of a violent confrontation, slipping into the wagon without knowing whose it was or where it was going. All she knew was that staying meant danger, and hiding was her only chance. Luke listened without interrupting. Every detail she shared added weight to the decision sitting quietly in his mind. He had not planned to take responsibility for anyone when the day started, but fate had placed her in his path for a reason he didn't yet understand. The more he heard, the clearer it became that sending her back wasn't an option. Whatever awaited her in that town was not something she could face alone, and certainly not something he could ignore. By the time the sun began to lower toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and deep red, Luke finally spoke again. His voice was firm, not harsh, but final in a way that left no room for doubt. "You're coming home with me." The words hung in the air between them, heavy but steady. Emily looked up quickly, uncertainty flashing across her face. Trust didn't come easily to her anymore, especially from strangers. Yet something in Luke's expression, calm, unshaken and honest, kept her from pulling away. As the wagon continued forward through the vast Texas land, the cattle moved quietly and the world around them seemed to slow. Emily tightened her grip on the coat, unsure of what the future held, but no longer running alone. Behind her fear, a small flicker of hope began to form. The road ahead was unknown, but for the first time in a long while, it didn't feel like she was facing it in complete darkness.